What's going on, everybody? It's Aurora YJ here, coming at you with another video because apparently we're getting another new archetype in Dimension Force that isn't just the Therians. Sorry if my hair looks kind of messy or my setup looks kind of messy. I did not expect to be recording a video right now, but we're gonna go ahead and get into this. This is the Scareclaw archetype, and I saw the V-Jump reveal like 5 minutes ago, even though it was released almost an hour ago, and this, like, as I was starting to prepare in case I did need to record, the YG organization link dropped, and so I started, like, panicking to record this, so it might come out a bit late, especially because it is really late at night. It's like 10 o'clock, and I have school in the morning, but regardless, this is the Scareclaw archetype. I know nothing about them. I scrolled down. They have a Link monster, 5 main deck monsters, 2 spells, 2 traps, and that's some kick-ass artwork, so let's see what this entails. Let's go ahead and get right into this. It says these claws have some sharp edges. Boneless Crusadia is the name of the link at the top. That's so funny. But anyways, to start off, we have Vsauce equals Stafrost? What? What is that? That's not Scareclaw. Okay. This is a light warrior tuner. It's a level 6 with 2100 attack and 1500 defense. You can only use the first effect of Vsauce equals Starfrost once per turn. This card's in your hand. You can target one monster you control with a different type and attribute, destroy it, and if you do, special summon this card. When this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can make this card gain attack equal to half the destroyed monster's original attack or defense, whichever one is higher. Okay, so that first effect could probably be used for some really funny shenanigans. It's not gonna work, by the way, but it could be really funny if, like, some sort of dinosaur player pulls this out of their ass and pops a baby on field. I don't know. That could actually be a really funny combo. Wow, because then you can summon Ovi and then go into, like, a level 10 synchro. Why do they have a tuner? Is this really for them, or is it, like, a side card that supports them? I don't know. Is this part of the world, not the World Legacy lore, the Dogmatica lore? I don't know. Overall, this could be used for some funny shenanigans, but until we see what's in the rest of the archetype, I can't really say how much it's going to help them. But anyways, let's get to the next one. We have Scareclaw Astra, and that is a pretty cool artwork, actually. I like that. Kind of reminds me of some of the World Legacy stuff. This is an Earth Beast effect monster that is level 3 with 0 attack and 1300 defense. You can only special summon with the first procedure of this card's name once per turn. Never seen anything like that before. You can special summon this card from your hand to your main monster zone in the column of a Scareclaw monster you control or its adjacent columns. Oh, it's a column deck like the weather. Okay. That immediately makes it like 10 times worse. But anyways, while you control a defense position Scareclaw monsters you control in the extra monster zone can attack a number of times each battle phase, up to the number of your defense position Scareclaw monsters with different names. Oh, that's why it's called Boneless Crusadia up in the link. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. So yeah, you basically can turn your, basically Link monster, I guess, because that's the only one I see, into like a Maximus. So I'm thinking this might just be trying to be an OTK deck like Crusadia. So that could actually turn out really cool. We are lacking in some really good OTK decks, in my opinion. And so I'd like to see if this deck can do that right, if it is the case. But yeah, hopefully this artwork doesn't disappoint, because sometimes we get some dope-ass artwork in, like, the worst cards. Anyways, next up we have Scareclaw Veranea. That sounds like a fucking Trap Tricks name. It is also an Earth Beast, level 3, this time with 0 attack and 1700 defense, and you can only special summon it with the first effect once per turn. You can special it from your hand to the same thing as Astra, either the same column or the adjacent columns, and if your Scareclaw monsters in the extra monster zone attacks a defense monster, inflict piercing battle to the opponent. I mean, piercing's okay, honestly, so there's a lot, like, honestly, this seems like kind of slightly worse Crusadia at this point. But then again, it could also be better because it doesn't have to summon to arrows. I don't know, actually. Let's keep going. But piercing overall isn't the best thing, especially not with Link monsters in the game anymore. But it's not the worst thing ever. You'll probably just run it because you can special it for free. I don't know. But next up, we have Scareclaw Aurora. It is an Earth Beast effect level 3 with 0 attack and 2000 defense. That doesn't look like it would have 0 attack. And you can only special summon it using the special summon clause once per turn. And your Scareclaw monsters in the extra monster zone gain 300 attack for each of your defense position monsters. Okay, so I'm assuming the idea is you want to summon your Link monster, and then you want to special all of your guys using their special clauses in defense. That's why they have 0 attack and so much defense. That way, you can make a really big, beefy beater that can swing multiple times and go for game. So depending on how this plays out, this could be better or worse Crusadia, really. I do like that artwork, though. It reminds me of, like, Hoopa if it met a Burning Abyss monster. I don't know. That's such a weird comparison. It's also turning into the Hulk. Anyways, that's really funny. So next up, we have Scareclaw Reichardt. This is different. We have a Dark Beast Warrior effect, level 4 with 1500 attack, 2100 defense. You can only special summon it with the first claw, which is the same Scareclaw claws, once per turn. Also, you can only use its second effect once per turn. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can add a Scareclaw spell or trap from your deck to your hand. Then, if there are 3 or more defense position monsters on the field, you can draw 1 card. Ooh, so it's kind of like an engage, but it's actually once per turn, so it's balanced. I really like that, actually. It does have these special summon claws, and so it can resolve really easily. This is obviously kind of a guaranteed 3 of, from the looks of it. Even if the stats are different from these 3, I still don't know what the fuck this Vsauce equals Starfrost guy is. I don't know. Maybe this actually isn't for Scareclaw, and maybe it's also from the V-Jump reveal. I don't know. If it is, whatever. I'm just going to choose to ignore it, really. But that's it for the main deck monsters. Next up, we have their actual extra deck monster, that only one they have so far. We have Scareclaw Trichar. Okay, so it's basically this guy riding atop of these guys combined, I think. It is a Dark Beast Warrior Link effect, Link 3 with 3000 attack, with bottom left, bottom right, and bottom arrows. It requires 3 effect monsters and must be Link summoned. I think they really just did that so you can't use Tri-Brigade shenanigans. That's really funny. And, okay. It has a multitude of effects. All face-up monsters on the field are changed to defense. Oh, okay. So yeah, even though links do exist, this can be better for the piercing guy. So maybe it'll actually be like a 2 of or something. I don't know. Or unless it's a 3 of just for the name, but I don't know. It's also unaffected by activated effects from any defense position monster. Ooh, okay. And then once per turn, if this card is in the extra monster zone, you can target 1 level 3 Scareclaw monster in your graveyard. You cannot special summon monsters for the rest of this turn except Scareclaws. Also, special summon the targeted monster, and if you do, add a Scareclaw monster from your deck to your hand. This is a really good boss monster, so first up, changing everything to defense is really solid, especially if you have the piercing guy on board. And then he's basically like a mixture of towers with a Bagooska clause, because he doesn't prevent them from activating their effects, but he is unaffected by their activated effects. So that's really nice in case, I don't know, they have some sort of, like disruption quick effect or something. So that's really cool right there. And then mainly, this third effect is really, really good, because a lot of these archetypes that are just like randomly released as like pack filler or something, they usually end up having a pretty decent boss monster, but you waste so much resources going into it that you have really no other follow-up. It's like summoning an access code, but not being able to go for game because you don't have anything else on board after making the resources to go into the access code. And so what I really like is that you summon the Link 3, you get 3 bodies on board, which should be really easy for this deck. It's just free special summoning. And then you link into it, and then you activate the effect, you special summon one of them back, preferably the twice attacker or something like that. And then you get to search for another. And ideally, you're probably just going to be searching for one whose special summon clause you haven't activated yet. And so you get to special that and then have its passive ability on field. And then that's also an additional attack if you have the one that gives multiple attacks. And that's just 2 more bodies on board, period. And so I really like this boss monster already. Also 3000 attack, pretty standard for a big boss monster that wants to hit hard. All the down arrows are pretty solid, honestly. You just get a lot of variety in terms of your Link monsters, because the only thing that locks you so far that we've seen is this effect. So it doesn't stop you from going into any other shenanigans beforehand. Overall, I really do like this boss monster. I'm really excited to see if the back row also holds up to this level of quality, because so far, I'm kind of digging this archetype. Honestly, a bit more than Therion already. But let's go ahead and get into the back row, speaking of which. And so we have Lephobia, the Wanton, and Willful World of Desire. Okay, so looking at this first thing, I think they just haven't translated the first monster. I don't know, but whatever. I'm gonna ignore him from now on, I'm sorry. But this is their field spell, Lephobia, the Wanton, and Willful World of Desire. You can only activate 1 card with the same per turn, and also you can only use its third effect per turn. When this resolves, you can add a Scareclaw monster or a Vsauce equals Starfrost. Oh, fucking hell, I can't ignore him. From your deck to your hand. So I guess they're just related lore-wise. Is that the Therion ship in the back? So many more archetypes being added to this lore, dude. But yeah, so it has a light stage search effect, much like the Therion field spell, much like light stage, much like a lot of field spells. Monsters your opponent controls lose 100 attack and defense for each defense position monster on the field. That's pretty nice, actually. It would have been probably nicer if it was like 200, but I don't know, it's overall pretty decent, especially because it doesn't have to have like any sort of boss monster or anything out. Like, you just have a monster out that's going to be like a little bit of a drain, so it could like hamper them a little bit. And then if there are 3 or more defense position monsters on the field, you can target one card your opponent controls and destroy it. Ooh, okay. So this deck actually has removal that isn't just Oonga Boonga beat over things. This can be really nice for floodgates and such, because if they summon anything in defense, keep in mind that's already like 1, 2, or more that they have. You just summon 1 of yours or 2 of yours, and then you can already go ahead and pop, maybe get rid of like a troublesome floodgate, like maybe skill drain, because that affects your boss monster. You know, there can be only 1 if you summoned the Beast Warrior and 1 of the Beast ones, something like that. All in all, that's some pretty nice removal. It is targeting destruction, which overall anymore isn't like the best kind of removal you can have, but it's still really nice because it can destroy any card, not just like a monster or something. All right, this is a really nice field spell, actually. I'm really digging it. Next up, we have Scareclaw Nova. You can only use the second effect of this card's name once per turn. This is a normal spell, by the way. Target 1 Scareclaw monster or 1 Visas equals Starfrost in your graveyard, special summon it in defense, so it's basically the first effect of the Link 3 without the search. And then if a Scareclaw Link monster or monsters you control be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard instead. Honestly, this is pretty nice. Like, it's no Rhoda or anything, but I mean, they have that in the form of the field spell. And so having just a revive spell is really solid, especially because it just gets you that passive ability right away. Honestly, I'm starting to think this is already better than Crusadia, specifically because the abilities aren't like engrave or anything, and they don't have to be activated. They're just nice passive continuous effects while they're on the field. And while that can be messed with things like imperm or skill drain or anything like that, it overall just makes the playstyle just a little bit better in my opinion. The protection can actually come up if your opponent's playing like a trap deck, especially because it doesn't say you can only use 1 effect per turn only once that turn. So you can target something engraved, special it, and then they're probably gonna use something that might get rid of your Link monster, even like after you use this and then you go into Link monster with the thing you just summoned. Then you can go ahead and protect it, much like you can with like Edge of Scythe and Fluffle after making your Frightful Will on your opponent's turn. So I really do like this. Archetypal Reborns are pretty nice, and also keep in mind, it only says you can use the second effect once per turn. It doesn't say that you can't activate multiple of these per turn for a Reborn, and so that can be really, really scary in the right hands. But that's going to do it for these spells. Let's go ahead and get right into their traps. First up, we have Scareclaw Splash? What? I think that's supposed to just be... Oh, it's supposed to be... Scareclash. That's so cringy, but I love it. All right. It's like almost on the level of Evil Twin GG Easy, but anyways, this is a continuous trap. You can only use the second effect of this card's name once per turn. Once per turn, you can target a Scareclaw monster or Visas equals Starfrost you control. This turn, it can attack while in face-up defense position, and if it does, apply whichever is higher between its attack and defense for damage calc. So I'm really excited because if they get a Synchro monster that's like super beefy in terms of defense, and they can use the Visas equals Starfrost easier, like as a tuner, that could be really fun. Because then you're basically just playing better not Six Samurai, Super Heavy Samurai. I like that. I like that a lot. That's really unique. And when your opponent activates a card or effect while you control a Scareclaw monster in the extra monster zone, you can send this face-up card from your spell and trap zone to the graveyard to negate the effect. Alright, I mean, that's a free Omni-Negate. Honestly, it does kind of suck that we are at a point in Yu-Gi-Oh! Where Omni-Negates are, like, super important, and if you don't have one, then, you know, you're kind of, like, screwed over. But this is perfectly nice for an OTK deck, because if it is forced to go first, then it can actually at least sit on something that isn't just a big, like, relative towers guy with a Baguska effect that doesn't even negate the effects. I really see nothing wrong with this. Having an Omni-Negate, it is a bit out of place in an OTK deck, but it does give it options, which I do really like. And then finally, we have Scareclaw Alternative, which is a normal trap. You can only use the second effect of this card's name once per turn. Tribute 3 Scareclaw monsters. Your opponent can only summon in defense for the rest of the turn. That's kind of interesting. And then during your turn, you can banish this card from your graveyard, inflict 100 damage to your opponent for each defense position monster on the field. Ignoring how funny that's going to end up being in time, especially considering this is a big punchy deck, like, the first effect can be interesting. Because this means they cannot summon Link monsters. They also cannot normal summon if you use this during their standby. So that can really screw over a lot of decks. and yet it's not a really stupid floodgate like the Dinorphia Rexsturm or Rexstrum or whatever his name was, where it's like just, you know, big, beefy floodgate towers thing. Like, this honestly could have been slapped onto the Link monster, and I kind of would have just went, eh. But I like the fact that this is on a trap, and it is searchable, but it has a good activation clause. Like, having to tribute 3, especially considering that, like, the easiest way to get 3 is to use resources to make the Link 3, use his effect to revive and search, special the thing you searched, and then activate, like, the Reborn or something after searching it off of the Beast Warrior guy. That's, like, the easiest way to probably trigger this if you want to go into, like, at least some sort of a board. And so, it's not just a stupid monkey flip floodgate. And it's not the most restrictive thing either, because if they don't go into Link monsters, but they can go in the other extra deck monsters, they could end up being perfectly fine. Like, something like Bird Up really wouldn't be too affected by this card. But it can affect other decks in pretty cool situations. So, ignoring the fact that it is kind of a floodgate, I do really enjoy it, actually, from the looks of it. But that's it for the look at the new archetype. So I'm going to go ahead and slowly scroll, much like I did in the Therian video. Let me just go ahead and start scrolling here. And so while I scroll, I'm going to talk about what I really like about this archetype. And what I really like is that it is a big, beefy boss monster OTK deck. I'm really a big fan of decks like that, hence why I play things like dinosaurs. I also experimented with trains, OTK fluffles, so many things like that, ancient gears. I love anything that can make a big body and then punch for a lot of damage. And admittedly, while this isn't probably as, like, big punchy as something like Gren Maju or Crusadia, it is a bit more oppressive than that, because it does actually have those floodgate-esque effects, as well as having access to, like, negates and things like that. And so that's really awesome for an archetype like this. And so overall, let's go ahead and give it a grade on my scale. As you may know, if you've seen my series where I review archetypes and support cards before, you will know that I like to rate archetypes, support, and things like that on a scale from 1 to 10, usually just for new archetypes, not really for support. But if I were to rate this on a scale from 1 to 10, ignoring the fact that they're definitely going to be getting more cards in the future, or actually no, considering the fact, I'm sorry, that they're going to probably end up getting more cards in the future, because it says Link monsters, and I don't think you're going to have 2 of the Link 3 out. I'm going to have to give them an 8 out of 10. Like, I know that seems really generous, but I really do think that this deck, given the fact that it's Crusadia with a bit more disruptions and floodgates on its side, I think this could be a really competent OTK deck, because we do have a lot of board breaker cards, things like, I mean, Dark Ruler you can't really OTK through, but you can still set up a board. You also have things like Droplet and everything like that, and then you can reborn them with the Reborn spell. And so I do think that this can be a really fun and really competent OTK strategy, or it can break boards much like Dinosaur did with, like, Tyranno and stuff against big things, and then sit on their own, like, little mini board after the opponent has used up all their resources. And so I really do think this deck has potential, especially if they do end up getting more cards in the future. Honestly, this deck has Link 4, like, written all over it. Like, I can almost smell the Link 4 incoming in, like, the next side or core set, like, through my brain and every follicle of my body. Admittedly, it does suck that they only have a Link 3 right now. I would actually like to see a Link 2 that can perhaps facilitate getting to the Link 3 a bit easier if you don't open multiple names. However, honestly, it is fine for now. But yeah, I do think that this deck can be really, really scary if people figure out, like, a perfect build for it. And again, I am a bit biased and a big fan of decks that can punch really hard, but I do think that this archetype can be really, really fun. But for now, that's gonna have to do it for my little improvised video here. If you liked it, please sure to leave a like on the video, as it helps put this video and the channel into YouTube recommended. And if you really enjoyed it and you want to see more content like this, like my other series where I review cards and support and things like that, then perhaps consider subscribing, because we're on our way to 1,000 subscribers by the time I graduate in May, and we are getting really, really close. We're at about like 741 or 742 as I speak. And so that is absolutely absurd. Thank you all so much for the support. Be sure to tell me what you think about this archetype in the comments below, as always. And thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. This is Aurora, signing off.